What's up, everyone? What's happening? I was just reading some of the comments about the STP video. How many of you saw that? Well, probably a lot of you saw it. It's gotten pretty fast on the amount of views today. Yeah, so it's interesting. Talked to my buddy Wayne earlier. We were talking about Stone Temple Pilots, and Wayne is he's probably 39 or so. So I'm not quite a generation older than him. I was 30 when grunge happened, and he was 13, I think, something like that. And Stone Temple Pilots was from San Diego, so they weren't part of the grunge movement, but they were, but obviously they were produced by Brendan O'Brien, and as all the Pearl Jam records, but the first one. So they had a connection that way. You had Super Unknown, which is mixed by Brendan O'Brien. Alice in Chains really had no connection with him, but he was kind of involved in that sound. So it's really interesting because STP wasn't. I wouldn't say was not regarded. This is my personal perception of how people regarded. This isn't really my personal perception of Stone Temple Pilots, but I would say they were not regarded in the same way as Pearl Jam and Nirvana at the time. I'm gonna turn these lights out because they're really bugging me. Hold on. I know you're not supposed to walk away, right? So, looking at it from a 30-year-old person's perspective, at the time in 1992, I don't think that Stone Temple Pilots was not thought of in the same way amongst people that I knew. I think that when they first came out, people thought it was Pearl Jam. If you think of what's the first single from Core, the first record, the first couple singles, I don't think that Scott Weiland really sang with his own voice until a little bit later. Some people thought that they were commercial and jumping and hopping on the bandwagon. Plush, I guess, was one of their first singles, or Sex Type Thing, something like that. Frederick, there you go. You thought Scott was Eddie, and that's what people thought at the time. Now, in retrospect, I think that Stone Temple Pilots has been elevated over time. And Wayne didn't have that same perspective. He wasn't looking at the band from a 30-year-old's perspective that was involved with people in the music business, and the people that people that were listening to that music in their 20s. They weren't from that scene. They didn't look the same as the grunge bands did or anything. So I wouldn't say that they were as highly regarded, and that's not my personal opinion. That's at the time, but I think that they've really withstood the test of time. And there's a tremendous amount of excitement for the band, especially as Tom just said, Interstate Love Song. That's a Uh, that was a uniquely great song. By the way, my Dweezil Zappa interview yesterday was 40 minutes long. Anybody that watched it live saw it go on for 40 minutes, and for some reason, my Pro Tools, my YouTube stream was crashed. For I don't know why. It's never done that. And only 3 minutes and 50 seconds of the 40-minute video got put on YouTube. Anyway, so it's showing fine now. What is showing fine now? Is that video up there now? Yeah, they shut it down at 3:47. Yeah. So, you know, I don't know what the deal was with it, but it's full now? What? No way. Are you serious? The whole thing is up now. Unbelievable. Wow. Let me take a look here. Look at that. 37 minutes. Unbelievable. Well, there you go. So, you know, it was weird. I had lunch with Dweezil yesterday. Then he said, well, let's do the video back at the 38 minutes. Okay, I thought it was 40 minutes, something like that. So he said, let's do it back at the venue. I said, great. We got on stage and we did it standing up, right? We're just we were talking standing up on the stage, and one of my buddies called me. I forgot to put my phone on silence, right? And then we finished the thing, and I said, I got to go. I went back. I came back home, and then when I got home, I realized, I don't know if it was my brother called me, he said, what happened to the Dweezil video? I said, what are you talking about? He said, it's only 3 minutes and 50 seconds long. I said, what? And I looked at it and I said, oh, you got to be kidding me. And then I called Dweezil and I said, man, the video didn't come out. And he's like, what? He said, well, come back before the show. If we have time, we can do it then. So we got back there, and then we had no internet connection backstage. So we couldn't do it then. So anyways, then we talked about, well, we'll just do it again. But I'm glad that it worked out, because it was really a cool interview. He answered a lot of questions, and he is a super great guy, and it was a really fun concert last night. So anyways, so yeah, so great. Well, that's one thing that I don't really have to apologize for there. First world problems. There you go, Chris. Yeah, exactly. Well, look, like I said, when people say first world problems, you're on YouTube right now. We all have first world problems. Is there a Zappa, what makes this song great, in the works? Well, those of you that know what's going on with their internal family dynamic, there's not going to be a Zappa. There's not going to be any Zappa. There won't be any Zappa, what makes this song great, yet. There's a long story with those problems. So, anyways, I don't want to get into that, but exactly, Frederick. Exactly. Here's another interesting thing. Somebody on here, I can't remember who it is now, took my downloaded my video, both videos from Aaron's site, which of course I don't, I usually don't like that, but put it on his YouTube channel as an experiment. And the Fleetwood Mac one got blocked immediately. And then the Queens of the Stone Age did not get blocked. And he has like 15 subscribers or something. And I saw the video up there. And it worked. And I told him, leave it up there. Let's leave it up there for for a week or so and see if it eventually gets blocked. Um, so there must be something to do with the number of subscribers that I have in relation to the blocking on the Queens of the Stone Age. So I'm not sure what's going on. And I get emails from people telling me, oh, just do this, just do this, just do this, and it'll be fine. And nobody really knows what the deal is. Chris, what are you, completely reasonable? I like learning about YouTube, exactly. Well, I went and looked, and I have more subscribers than Queens of the Stone Age. So, Sheena, why do you keep talking about this YouTube thing, okay? Is that you that keeps talking about that? Yeah, it's a total crapshoot, Jimmy. You're right. I knew this one was not going to get blocked. I just knew it wasn't. You hate YouTube. Dave Grohl versus Queens of the Stone Age, Stonehenge. What is the story? I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, so that's the deal with that. When I had this one video with Keith Jarrett last year, it took a month to get blocked. It got flagged. It got blocked in Germany and Austria, and then eventually got blocked worldwide. That is a Dan Electro guitar. It's a new guitar I got from them that I've played, I think, one time so far. It's very nice. I need to try it out some more. So those of you that saw the Queens of the Stone Age video saw me play my other guitar, my other Dan Electro, which I thought sounded great. Keith Jarrett video, Space Cruiser. I had 2 Keith Jarrett videos, and they both got taken down. What happened to the beard? Man, that's old info. That got lost a week ago. Anyway, so so that is the deal with that. Let's see, what else? I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I was going to tell you guys. No sweat, Yukis. You've been gigging. That's good. Gigging is good. Oh, remember reading that Space Cruiser, reading that DeLeo guitarist loved, yes, loved Holdsworth. Yeah, so that was a true story about the, I only tell true stories, about him playing the In the Dead of Night beginning of the solo. He didn't play the whole solo, he played the beginning of it. It worked perfectly over whatever song, I can't remember what it was, but I remember I went with my friend Rich to the concert, and I was like, dude, it's playing Holdsworth. And he says, who's Holdsworth? And I was like, never mind. What makes Alan Parsons so great? Let's see. Is Dean or Robert the composer of Vaseline? That was the only song, I believe, on the record that is composed by the entire band. I realized when I was looking at the Wikipedia of STP, just to see what year that Purple came out, or is that the name of the record it's on? And it shows you the band members, and it says former band members Scott Weiland and Chester, and they had two lead singers die. It's pretty. That is pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. Let's see here. Watch Elon Musk's Twitter link for "Do you trust this computer?" It goes down in 5 hours. Explain Google's MO. Interesting. Okay. Their new guy's pretty good. Okay. Interesting. Well, better than not being okay, right? Did the DeLeo brothers write the? They wrote pretty much all the. They pretty much wrote all the. I mean, most of the songs. What is my opinion of giving a drummer in your band songwriting credits if they just play drums that are in the room when songs are written? Will. That's a really great question. Hey, Brett. You know, there are some schools of thought. The Nashville school of thought is write a word, get a third. Or if you're in the room, you get a third. Or I did a session here with a songwriter friend of mine, and his name's Monty, and he used a line from another songwriting session that he was on with a song that never got finished, that a friend of his had. And his buddy that I'd never met got a third of the song for the one line. So, you know, Sting didn't share the copyright with the guys in his band. And the Beatles didn't share the songwriting with the rest of the guys in the band, but REM always did. U2 always did. So, you know, bands that share publishing tend to stay together a lot more. That's just, you know, it's really hard to tell you whether to split your publishing with somebody. How well do you know the guy, the drummer? It really depends. It depends. Didn't Sting tell them what to play, though? Yeah, pretty much. What if the drummer is Neil Peart? Well, if the drummer's Neil, then he wrote the lyrics, so he contributed. Eagles is a prime example. Yeah. Does everybody know it's not the Eagles? It's just Eagles. It's just a good friend of yours. What's up, Rhett? Legally, isn't just the words and the melody determine who gets credit? Well, you know, I don't know. It used to be that way, but hey, Peter. Used to be that way, but nowadays people would probably say that the riff is part of the song too. You know, I don't know. I mean, it was always just the lyric and the melody. It depends. So money ruins everything. Just jam. Well, you know, unfortunately, there is the business of music. So publishing is tough. You have to get the stuff down right when you write the song. I was listening earlier to a couple new songs. I listened to the new 30 Seconds to Mars, their new single, which is actually really good, even though it's very, very super produced. And I listened to the new Shinedown single that I was not nuts about, even though my good friend Eric produced it, who's in the band. It wasn't necessarily a production. Um, uh, but the singer Brent, when I wrote a lot of songs with him, and every time that we wrote a song, Brent took out a piece of paper, ripped it out, wrote the title of the song, and wrote Brent Smith 50%, Rick Beato 50%. We both signed it, and that was it. And that's all you needed. Um, people ask me about the copyright thing in whatchamacallit, sending your copyright form in and everything. If it's nowadays everything is time stamped pretty much, right? Um, so so how many people saw my Thomas Newman? Did we talk about that the other night? I don't even remember. I don't think so. How many of you saw my Thomas Newman video? Maybe we did talk about it. I don't remember now. I don't think so. But I was kind of disappointed that it did not do as well as I thought it would. I mean, I thought it was an excellent video, and no one seems to care, apparently. I got more views on my Stone Temple Pilots in 4 hours than I did on that video. I got 12,000 views. I don't know. Didn't see it, didn't get the notification. Ian, who? Thomas Newman, film composer that you should know. If you watch my channel, you should know him. If you're over here not watching it, or if you're over here and you don't know who he is, you should know who he is. So anyways. Film music is a smaller circle of interest. Well, I don't agree with that. I've got film music videos that have 150,000 views. Not that many are aware of Thomas Newman. How can you not be aware of Thomas Newman? He's done the last 2 James Bond movies. He's had about 20 Oscar nominations. He's, the movie was better. The movie was not better. The score was made that movie, and I love that movie. But that movie without the score is I don't think would have been anything. You've all heard Thomas Newman. If you haven't heard him, you don't ever go to the movies. He did everything from, jeez, what didn't he do? He's done the last 2 James Bond. He did Finding Nemo. He did WALL-E. He did, American Beauty. His dad was the biggest film scorer of the 40s, 50s, and 60s. He didn't do Silence of the Lambs. He did Road to Perdition, which is great. He did The Green Mile. No, Thomas Newman's father composed the Fox fanfare. Randy is his cousin. He did the 6 Feet Under theme. You don't know who wrote any movie music. You only heard of John Williams. Well, you're 12 years old then. Or you don't care. Do the Predator soundtrack, please. He did not do The Village. That was James Newton Howard. Ray, you can tell. He said, "Careful, everybody." Um, Randy was great too. Just made the connection. Rick, when will you start banning people? I feel pretty soon. Um, does he have to orchestrate his pieces? No, they all pretty much everybody that does major films has orchestrator or is plural. Although he did start his, I believe he wrote some cues for Return of the Jedi for John Williams, or maybe did some orchestrating for it. But I included the scenes from the movie, and this is interesting. So the movie, when I put up that video, they did not demonetize it. They did a shared monetization of it, which is really interesting. They recognized, I mean, I did the mock-up of it, but they did it recognized that I used a piece of the film, because obviously the artificial intelligence can tell video. Now that seems like a reasonable solution to me. Why is it that the film industry has this together, and the music industry doesn't? And why do people just ask me about Interstellar? There's nothing I don't even remember any soundtrack in Interstellar. It's about 3 notes. I just kept saying Interstellar in the thing. I mean, I just get a synth out and play 3 notes. Isn't that the one with the or is that the one with the pump with the pipe organ? It's got like 3 notes in it, right? I mean, I'm going to analyze 3 notes? Man. But they're the best 3 notes. My God. Thought it was pretty, but any Hans Zimmer is great. Okay. Your Interstellar is a pipe organ, right? Okay. I think the guy that played the pipe organ was improvising a lot. Anyways, Bo, you have an orchestrator. She won't let you do anything. Is that right? That's great. I have a tough job. Sometimes it's only 3 notes that matter. But that's true. That is true. Sometimes those are the, you gotta have the right 3 notes, but I think that there would be better use of my time analyzing some things that have a little bit more, more substance to them, if you will. Let's see here. Some complexity. There you go. Keep doing the film music videos anyways. Oh, I'm going to. He was using the Messiaen mode but didn't finish. Barbara Adagio analysis, please. Okay. Analyze some Wayne Shorter pieces. Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of stuff to do. They're time consuming, but you know, it's all part of the channel. So I saw Cecil Taylor died. It's very sad, but I mean he lived a full life. Um, Weather report question mark. I don't know what that means, Lee. Um, do I have multi tracks for soundtracks? No, I don't. Um, Mark, you appreciate what I said about non-quantizing the recording. Okay, I'm glad that some people really um, um, that's an interesting thing. Those pauses that are in Vaseline. Um, it You find it in music all the time back then. My example of Smells Like Teen Spirit, or like that kind of late hit. It's not late, it's just laid back. um, Downbeat is crucial to the thing. I mean, it really. um, I think that just makes it. I think that's a huge part of being a human being. Um, I mean, everything about the about that tune of Vaseline. That you have to wait for those downbeats. It just makes you kind of, it's just exciting. Makes it incredibly exciting. And it Smells Like Teen Spirit is that way the whole time. Every phrase is like that. Dave Grohl slightly delays. I mean, it's really, I'm exaggerating it, but there's no way you could put that on a grid. You can't do it with a fixed tempo. You just can't. Then you're trying to catch up. Anytime you stretch those beats out, it makes the song longer, moves the click. And Robillard, you're trying to get as close to Dave's Grohl's drum sound. Are the easy drummer too? Good luck. Let's see. Playing Brazil's no click, no grid. There you go. The grid became difficult. EDM appeared. Yeah. EDM appeared. Can I teach you the basics about how to compose music for movie scenes? Well, I can analyze movie scenes, which is, that's pretty much how you learn how to do it. It's kind of like, Bach taught his sons to, had them transcribe, copy scores and things like that, and that's how they learned part writing and stuff. I mean, that's kind of how you do it. So, is there a way to turn off the grid? Yeah, just don't play to it. Let's just play time. What method do I use for rhythm counting? Indian solfege, American style? Depends. Most rhythms are just, a lot of times you just play rhythms from memory pretty much if you've played enough of them. Yeah, you can play push and pull with a click. You can, but it's not the same kind of thing. Um, It's just not. It's a different kind of thing. If you listen to Black Dog by Zeppelin, you can hear the stick clicks because I think that John Bonham was clicking his sticks in between instead of counting, and then they unmuted would unmute the drums every time on mixing. Uh, but that would be old school just to click your sticks together, and not have a metronome. Even if there's a break, something you wait till the cymbals die, and you know, um, so yeah, they would leave one click in. Well, I don't know if they leave one click in. I think just one click, Subi, just got left in by accident. I think they'd be, and then the cymbal would die, and he'd click his sticks together, and then, then they would unmute, they'd mute the drums, and then unmute it, and there'd usually be one click left in. Every time, though, yeah. I don't think you could do it. Well, maybe you could. Maybe just did. It would be hard to do though. To not have any type of a click there. Larry Mullen didn't want to use a click track. Larry Mullen is amazing with a click track or without a click track. Mark asked, does the 2-inch tape machine have a place anymore? I've used my 2-inch tape machine many times. I use it differently. I use it to record bass and drums typically, and then I'll dump it into Pro Tools and then erase over the tape. But I'll record it on tape. If it's a thank you, Peter, so much. Thank you. If there's a really tight rhythm section, and you really want to hear that drum compression, the attacks. I think it's really dependent, honestly, on the. I think it's for me. I like to do it with things that have a classic sound, and if the band is really well rehearsed, I think it's very worth doing. It takes twice the amount of time to set up for a session. For my assistant Ken to set up for a tape session because it's double the patching. It's twice as many patch cables in the patch bay. But I think it sounds dramatically different, so I think it's totally worth it. Frederick says, Eno and Lenoir went to great lengths, speeding up, slowing down Unforgettable Fire to make it work. Larry Mullen has phenomenally good time. I mean, just incredibly good time. That is why U2 works so well. I don't have any U2 multi-tracks. Anything I do of U2 would have to be, I just have to play the track and talk about it. But I know most things about U2, so I'm an expert on U2. Do I think that tape emulation can get close? James asks. There are some good tape emulation programs. The one is called it's called the Phoenix. It's by Crane Song. Is that what it's called? Phoenix? It's a Pro Tools plugin. It does tape emulation, and it's very good. They had 4 different modules that they made. Dave Hill was the guy that invented Crane Song. There's a J37 that Waves has, a Kramer tape machine. Don't care for those, to be honest with you. UA tape machine plugins are pretty good. Thank you, Peter, so much. Appreciate that. The plugins, I have every tape plugin. I mean, I have a tape machine, and I own all the tape plugins. But I'll tell you what the best ones, I have the Steven Slate one. My favorite one was the 5042 made by Neve Portico. 5042 is a two-space unit, stereo unit, that has a tape head in it. So it actually uses a magnetic head, and the circuitry passes through it. And I thought that was the closest sounding to my tape machine when I used it. I had one for a short period of time. I love the sound of it. But, there's other things that you can do besides tape compression. There's a company that I'm a really big fan of called Burl Audio. Burl Audio, I want to tell you, have I talked about Burl Audio here? Burl Audio is an excellent company. I think I've talked about them a little bit, but they make really high-end digital converters. They also make really great 500 series mic pre's that I'm a big fan of. They make the B1 and they make the B1D. The difference between the two is the B1 has a nickel transformer and the B1D has an iron transformer. And iron transformers are what they use in Neves. Iron transformers typically have more, have more low mids to them. They also have a thing called the Vancouver, which is a summing mixer. It's a 32 channel that has it has nickel transformers in it, or you can have it without nickel transformers. So I talked to Rich Williams, the guy that owns the company, years ago, probably 12 years ago, and he built me. I asked him if he had a summing mixer, was planning on making one. And I said, use the Beato app for YouTube, Peter. There you go. That's pretty good, right? I asked him about it. He said, I'm going to build you one because I have the parts to it. And I was going to build the summing mixer. So he built me the first prototype of it. And I had it. He only hooked up 24 channels to it. And I loved it. I used it all the time. When you engage the transformers, it just sounded amazing. It was so fat. Transformer distortion is very different. Those particular transformers sound really incredible. It's kind of like tape, I think. I don't do studio tours. Anybody that asks me studio tours, I don't do studio tours. There's nothing I can't get away from this, my thing here. I can't walk around with it. So I think that their summing mixer is incredibly good. So anyways, that's my, summing mixers can make a big difference on your sound. The problem with it was that all bands wanted to just start having what I call, or start doing micro mixing. Once everyone started mixing in the box 10 years ago, and everybody was mixing in the box, it just became the thing where you had 8 revisions of every song. And after a while, it gets incredibly old doing that. Miles asked, what's a summing mixer? Summing mixer, you take outputs, usually stems. This thing had 32 channels, but you could take up to 32 stereo sends. And I was not a clasp guy, Eli. I never thought the clasp was very interesting. If you're going to use tape, just use a tape machine. So one of the problems with the Burl was that you'd have to use 2 channels for the kick. You use 2 channels for the snare on the prototype, anyways. So you typically will take, a stereo submix of your drums out, or maybe you'll do your drums in your rooms or something like that. Then you take a stereo mix of the bass, stereo guitars, just stems like you would do, keyboards, lead vocals, background vocals, whatever. The more you break it out, the wider your mix would become. I personally didn't think you could hear any difference. You couldn't hear much difference until you got at least 16. You came out 16 tracks. One of the problems is, though, that if you go out, you're coming out analog, right? You have to have a really good converter for the output too. I was using my 192, which is okay converters. They're not great converters. If the Burl converters are amazingly good. At the time, I had a UA 2192 converter that was that has an A to D, D to A stereo, which is really great sounding. It was designed by Rich Williams, who owned Burl, and it had transformers in it, and I thought it was unbelievably good. But anyways, the summing, using a summing mixer makes it the stereo image wider. To me, that's where you'd hear it, and you'd hear it really in the upper harmonics of instruments. When you hear them in reverb tails and things like that, it would just sound like it's a wider stereo image. And that's, that was something that we fought about all the time in Pro Tools, is how to get a wide stereo image. Mixing in the box is just mixing in your computer. That's pretty much what most people do nowadays. Thoughts on trends toward using drum trigger sample replacement? Well, if you don't know how to mic a kick right, Tyler, then that's what you got to do. Ideally, you learn how to mic a kick. If you guys for those of you that watched my Stone Temple Pilots video, the drums sound phenomenal on it. They really sound incredible. The kick drum especially sounds huge. So check it out. Listen to it when I solo the drums. I mean, they sound amazing. What do I think of Manfred Eicher as a producer? Well, I don't think that he has much to do with the records, to be honest with you. As far as I know, he's probably 75 years old now. He always had an engineer, and the bands, the artists would produce their own records for the most part. What kind of tubes am I using in them, Marshall? Charles asked. They're just EL34s. Just I can't remember which ones are in. I honestly don't remember now. How big is a mixing board in the overall shape of the sound? Well, that's subjective, right? I mean, some people only work on mixing consoles. Some people never work on mixing consoles. What do I think of Dave Fridman? Are you talking about? I'm not understanding the spelling. I don't think you have the correct spelling, so I'm not sure who you're talking about. Talking about the producer? You're talking about the amp builder? Are synthesizers killing music? No, human beings are killing music. Vast majority of STP were recorded live? No, probably not. No, I'm sure that they did the drums first and then the bass was overdubbed. I remember hearing that the Robert DeLeo would sit and punch in his own bass parts or do them by himself. He knew what he wanted to play and he wanted to get it perfect, and he would just sit there and do it. And Brendan would leave and go do something. Nick would sit there with him. So let's see here. Instruments don't kill music. People kill music. There you go. Oh, brother. That's pretty funny. Synths are just tools. Instruments can't kill music. I've not met David, no. Can every sound be made from analog synths by tweaking waveforms? I don't know. Probably, if you want to spend enough time. Analog synths, probably not. The FM synthesis is a different kind of synthesis, I believe, and you know, better to go with presets and find and tweak them. Spitfire's your favorite. Is your favorite library? Okay, Spitfire's great. When you're recording an album, do you record each instrument of each track? For example, all drums for all the songs and bass and so on? No, I don't. But I don't because I don't have to. Since I have my own studio and I never have to tear stuff down, I leave the drums set up. I leave the bass set up. I leave the guitar set up. And we'll typically do one song at a time. We might not do all the overdubs, but we'll do all the main tracking on it. And then, you know, we might just get rhythm guitars or, you know, it depends. It really depends on what the, you know, it really depends on what it is, you know, what kind of band I'm working with. Did I see the Hans Zimmer Roundtable? I did, yes. He likes to drink his wine. Which one is my go-to guitar? Whatever I'm playing at the time. How many isolation rooms do I have? I have 3 ISO booths in the live room and the control room. Be really difficult to replicate a real sound absolutely perfectly on a synth. Yes. You asked Rhett to tour my studio on his channel. Okay. Greed, bad taste, and yes, it's, you know. Has anybody heard that 30 Seconds to Mars track? I'm not sure it would get banned if I played it, but I listened to it for the first time today. I'm going to play it right now. I'm not going to get banned, I'm sure, but let me play it for you. Let's see what you think. I think it's a new song. 30 Seconds to Mars. Here we go. Is this record called America? Did this just come out? I don't even know. Maybe it's been out for a while. Let's see here. Let's see here. Is it Walk on the Water? I don't know. Maybe this isn't even single. But I listened to this. I thought it was pretty cool. Let's see if it plays. Oh, you know what? I get the volume down. Let's see here. Let's check this out.
Can you even see what you're fighting for? Bloodlust and a holy war. Listen up, hear the patriots shout. Times are changing. In the end, choice was clear. Take a shot in the face of fear. Fist up in the firing line. Times are changing. Do you believe that you can walk on water? Do you believe that you can
Okay, so, I don't know what that is. It's not rock music. So that's 30 Seconds to Mars. That was just the first tune on the thing. I saw a picture of Jared Leto, I guess it was. And I was like, what is this? And I saw, oh, they have a new record out. I think it's a new record. I have no idea. It's incredibly pop, right? Is it alt rock? No, it's not alt rock. What is it though? Radioactive, repackaged, resold. Pretty cool for pop. It's I don't know. Does anyone know anything about this record? Do the stars on here mean that what do the stars mean on there? Are those the singles? Sound like the record of the drums or real drum? Those are it's a drum machine. K-pop, those backing vocals are really a trend. I know. It's man, you hear Stone Temple Pilots and then you hear that and hip hop. That's kind of hard to say. Where is this stuff played? I don't know. There's a thing on here. Rescue Me, it's called. It has a star next to it. I assume that this is a single. Let's listen to a second of it. Here we go.
Whatever you do, don't ever play my game. Too many years being the king of pain.
Thank you, Robert.
You gotta lose it all if you wanna take control. Sell yourself to save your soul.
Now this is an alternative rock band. It used to be.
From the demons in my mind. Rescue me from the lovers in my life. Rescue me from the demons in my mind.
Okay, here's another song. Hold on.
You are insane. My desire.
I mean, okay, this is 30 Seconds to Mars. It's all drum machine. That's your rock band. Those are your rock bands there. Wait, this is 30 Seconds to Mars, Maurizio? That was all 30 Seconds to Mars. Those three things I just played. There you go. Are you surprised? Might as well be a Kanye record. Rock is so dead, long live rock. 3 producers and 19 writers. That's probably true. I'll bet you that's true. Greta Van Fleet will not save anyone. We'll save you. Can't break. Jesus. They fired their drummer. What's up, Nari? So that's it. That's 30 Seconds to Mars' new record, apparently. It says 30 Seconds to Mars, maximalist rock has always been a vehicle for big ideas. Jared Leto and crew implore themes of war and peace, sexuality, freedom, and faith through concept albums and glossy videos. But the widescreen focus of America may provide the group's broadest statement yet, an attempt to survey, as he put, the good, bad, and the ugly about his homeland. Leto even hitched cross-country to promote the record. Okay. Anyways, it doesn't sound much like rock to me, but At least he only spends 30 seconds per song. That's not true, obviously. Um, will Amy Mann ever return? I do not know. They need to take drugs for improvement. Nothing rock about that. So I had somebody write to me, and I've talked about this before, and I'm going to make a video about it, about the death of blues and rock. And some of you on here that have watched my videos for a long time know that I talk about this, that I believe that rock. Don't ask me about Rival Sons, please. All right. Don't ask me about Greta Van Fleet or Rival Sons. So, when blues left rock music, rock began its quick and tragic turn to the down Cemetery Road. Blues was part of rock since its beginning. R&B, Chuck Berry, think about it, right? Blues was in every kind of rock. It was in every kind of, obviously it was in R&B. But blues started to disappear in the 90s after grunge. When you got bands like Hootie and the Blowfish, Dave Matthews, that really had no blues elements or very little blues elements. And they didn't have the kind of riffs that people wanted to learn. Now, when nu metal happened, there was really a lack of blues. And you can say, there's the Jack White and things like that, and you can find isolated bands here and there that do things like that. And Joe Bonamassa did not bring it back. Sorry, Thomas. Joe Bonamassa's been playing blues and been out there since 1987. He didn't bring anything back. He was there the whole time. Pockets of Resistance is more like it, Mark. Exactly. So, nu metal was pretty much devoid of blues. There were no blues riffs in the songs. They didn't have solos in them. And you can always find examples of bands that had blues elements to it. But for the most part, there was no blues and rock. And once blues left rock, there was no rock. And that's, and I can make a pretty convincing argument, and I will on a video. Limp Bizkit, I mean, think about all the bands. Linkin Park, and I love Linkin Park, but think about it. I mean, those are not, that's like, what is that? That's not blues. There's no blues at all in Linkin Park. There's really no blues in Creed. There's no blues in, look at all those bands that happen. There's really no blues in Nickelback. There's there's just, I'm trying to think of any of the bands that were out. Of course, Stone Temple Pilots was bluesy. I mean, all those bands, all the grunge bands had blues in them. All the guys grew up with Jimi Hendrix and with Led Zeppelin, stuff like that. Rage Against the Machine had blues in them. Audio Slave did too. But does Mark Tremonti or what Alter Bridge, do they have blues? They blues. There is some blues in Alan Holdsworth, Daniel. Not much, though, but there's some blues in Alan Holdsworth. He plays blues on that UK solo I was talking about earlier. Marcus King is a blues player, but Marcus King is, not, for every Marcus Kings, there's 20 Jared Leto's here. There's 20 of those things, right? So, anyways, I think that that's pretty much was the death of rock is the lack of blues in it. And if labels wanted to, it wasn't just that. I'll tell you the other thing. The other thing is record labels hiring people like me to write songs for bands. Okay, um, you know, that's part of it. That was when I said, I don't want to be part of the problem. Um, Robillards. Okay, you're talking about Queens of the Stone Age. You're talking about those bands. Those are so you're talking about bands that really happened in the right around 2000 or so. We're coming up on 20 years ago. I mean that, no one knows stuff like that. It was the early 2000s. Okay, the Black Keys. Yeah, you can find isolated instances, but there wasn't entire genres that were, for the most part, bands that were huge, that were part of worldwide movements, uh, had, by the early 2000s, everything was devoid of blues. So, with the exception of people like, Adele, and Adele sang blues melodies. Um, and Adele had massively big selling records, right? Um, Peter says our kids are going to country because they want blues and they want rock. That really happened. And Amy Winehouse, first record came out, Robillard, in 1997. We're 20 years ago. Um, so a lot of my friends during the new metal era went to country music. They started listening to country because they wanted stuff that had guitars. They wanted stuff with guitar solos. I know Gary Clark 5. Okay, yeah, fine. We can always find a few examples, but they're not huge examples. Gary Clark 5 is not Justin Bieber. Nirvana was Justin Bieber, but great. So people went to country music, and then country music started taking solos out of their songs. So then that was it. You bring up these references like Amy Winehouse, like, what are you talking about? Her record came out, her first record was 1997. Right? No, it was 97, I think. I don't think it was 2006. So anyways, and country music has gotten electronic now. That's right. That's right. Ban him. Ban who? Jam bands kept it going. Jam bands didn't keep anything going. There's no, um, um, well, there would be, okay, you got Huge Run 2005, okay. Um, Oasis have a lot to answer for splitting, okay. Blues Traveler, never thought tuned vocals. Yeah, solo's been replaced by vocal arrangements. But it's not just blues. It's not being. It's not being. Oh yeah, let me get back to the producers writing songs for bands. That was the big problem. Around 2005, 2003, 2005, record labels, A&R guys reached out to people like myself. I mean, especially during the new metal era, they'd reach out to producers to co-write with bands. They didn't trust bands to write their own songs. As the hooks became more complex to write, where you'd have a a verse, a pre-chorus, a chorus, a post-chorus, a re-intro, a second verse, a pre-chorus, post-chorus, bridge. I mean, you had to keep writing these hooks all the time, and the bands couldn't write these kind of songs. So they started getting producers to write songs with them, and that was really the death of it. You can't be singing other people's lyrics. You got to write your own lyrics. So what do I consider the producer's job to be? Producer's job should make the records, you know. I mean, unless they're the songwriters, you know, like Max Martin or whatever. But you know, producers typically in the old days made the records. They took the band's material and shaped it. They got great performances. They got great sounds. They guided them through the process, you know. They didn't write their lyrics for them. They could help them, you know, with a they could help them if they needed help on something, but I think that was a really big thing. And I used to say to A&R people that would hire me, I'd say, why don't you just find bands that can write their own songs? The death of the third verse, Rich. I know there's no third verses anymore. So the producers like myself would act as songwriters. We'd come in and we'd write songs. We want something that sounds like this, okay? And I would write it, and then I would play all the parts on the record. So there you go. And there's no band playing their parts live or anything in the studio. Just, you know, listen to this stuff. Listen to grunge. These people are playing in the studio. Sheena, so EDM is different. If the producer is the artist, that's a different thing. So you have producers that are the artists, okay? But I'm saying that when rock, I was talking about why rock died, and it was that A&R people that were nervous about their jobs would go out and hire producers to go in and write the songs with the band so that the people wouldn't get fired. And all they were thinking about is, am I going to lose my job and not be able to provide for my family? And that's the reality of it, you know? Unfortunately, though, people don't want to say, the producers don't want to say, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I don't believe in this. I mean, I'm sure some did. If you were Rick Rubin, you could pick whatever you wanted, then it was fine. But, you know, at a certain point, you got to say, I don't want to be part of the problem. The producers that would take any of these gigs and would get out there and write for the bands, they were killing the industry. They really were. There were guys out there, there's producers out there that produced every new metal record, or a lot of them. There's a guy, Howard Benson. You'd see his name on all these new metal records, just one after another after another. And he got hired for everything. Labels would hire the guy. He did, you know, back in the mid-2000s, everything. I don't know what he's doing now, but he was on everything. Everything that, you know, whatever. Labels would hire the guy. And he had an engineer that always worked with him, and they would do 4 bars at a time, and that's it. That's how the music went down in Pro Tools. You know, those 4 bars are good. Let's loop those. Let's get to the chorus. So, you know, that's really it was started to be music by committee. And then you started having the A&R guys. And I've sat there with the meetings with the A&R guys where they are micromanaging every part of every song. They come to the studio, you play them the tracks while you're making the record, and they have their opinion. And they have their opinion because they feel like they have to have an opinion because they have huge egos, a lot of them. and they want their opinion heard. I worked on records where the head of A&R at a label came in and the band wanted a certain mixer, and he didn't like the mixer. And the mixer's a very famous mixer, and he did great mixes. So we scrapped all the mixes and redid them with another mixer who did a great job too. But it was, it was a waste of $100,000. In the long run, did it matter? No, it didn't matter at all for the record. Well, it did matter. I mean, it sounded different. The two records sounded very different. Whatever happened to studio bands like the Wrecking Crew? There's no money to pay studio bands, and labels don't sign things like that to there's not that industry anymore. In country music, pretty much, I mean, most of the country artists do not write their own songs. They're singers, they're artists in that way, and they don't provide their own material. So it's a different thing, Country music is very similar to how music was in the 50s. People like Elvis that sang other people's music, or people like Frank Sinatra. They weren't out writing their own music. They were out. Their producers would help them find songs. Rock lost its female audience in the mid-90s in favor of band boys. That's interesting, Lisa. Women liked grunge. They did. They did like grunge. They had, but nu metal. No, nu metal was a complete guy movement. Total guy. It was not only was a guy movement, but it was a faceless band movement. I talk about that all the time. So what's coming next? I don't know. If it were up to me, I would. I think that's for another time. Jack White's gone digital. Okay. No. Oh. All right. I think I'm good for tonight. Hour and 18. Women loved hair bands. That's true. That's a cliffhanger, Matt. We're going to talk about this tomorrow or something. We're going to talk about it tomorrow. But there's a lot of blame to go around, and I'll take some of it. You guys are awesome. Thank you.